Okay, so welcome to our panel, How Will Bitcoin and Crypto Impact Future Societies? And I hope there are some visionaries here in the audience who are open to new economic and social concepts, because that's what I want to venture today with our panelists, a look into the future where Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and the Web3 in general will play a big role. Unfortunately, Oliver Rummel from DFX Swiss cannot attend today. He fell sick at the last minute. Nevertheless, I'm very optimistic with our panelists today to have great discussions, and therefore I would like to ask you, everyone, to introduce themselves briefly. Maybe you start, Daniel?
Thank you, Sven. Yes, I can do this. My name is Daniel Wingen. I'm working for a company called Galloy, and we build a open source, cloud native, Lightning wallet backend, you could say. And my position here is probably more focused on Bitcoin. I'm very much looking forward to this discussion.
Hi, my name is Dirk Röder. I'm working as the head of the Blockchain Solution Center for Deutsche Telekom.
And I'm Marius van der Weijden from the Ethereum Foundation. Today I'm only talking on my behalf, not on behalf of the Ethereum Foundation, just as a little disclaimer. And I think I'm the odd one out in this panel, but I'm happy to discuss with you.
Yeah, that's very great that we have a mix here between the Bitcoiners maybe more and you from the Ethereum Foundation. I think that's what we need to have a broad topic. And before we go more into detail, I would like to start by knowing from you, what are the core values, why crypto in general can have a positive impact for you, for our society?
So, like the core values for me are definitely decentralization and self-reliance. Like you have the power to manage your assets, you have the power to send money whenever you want to, and you don't have to rely on any service providers or anyone else. Like you can rely on them, but you don't have to. And this is something that we don't, like in traditional finance, we don't have that. This is why I'm kind of in it, to give some of the power back to the people.
I think I concur 100%. The idea behind the decentralization provides the opportunity for people, and this has been not in existence before. So that's the first time in the existence of mankind that you can hold on to your personal assets and nobody else can take them away from you. And I think this is very powerful. I assume that all of us sitting in this room, and probably 99% of people watching us, they don't understand the concept that somebody is taking something away from you. But billions of people live in authoritarian states, and the government is not your friend, and they embrace this idea much more than we do.
Do you want to add something?
I think there are multiple perspectives on this. I would like maybe highlight two of them. One aspect, I think, which is super important to look at is the digitalization in general. We see like paper trails are being digitalized, not only physical money, physical cash being transferred into digital money. It's also all the data we generate and we consume are being transferred from a physical form into a digital form. And the problem always is the internet, of course, is a copy machine, right? So it's not only a copy machine, it's also a problem that data can easily manipulate it. So it's much harder to manipulate data and things in the physical world, like for example a euro note. It's much harder to change anything here than in a digital form in a database entry. So what we actually need in order to solve this problem, we would kind of need a time witness, which is completely independent of any government, works globally, has a high level of security, and makes sure and can basically prove that a specific information was in this form available at this time and is not manipulated. I think this is super important thing going forward into the future, because otherwise we can't trust any data anymore. And this is a big problem. Bitcoin solves this, obviously, because it's a global security layer, completely independent, completely neutral, not interrupted, not corrupted by anyone, not even centrally controlled, completely neutral. This is one thing, one aspect which many people don't look at. The other aspect, I think, and this is more like for Bitcoin and not for cryptocurrencies, obviously, I always ask the question myself, what happens if we move into a society from a financial system which is expanding in the amount of money which is existing versus a financial system where the amount of money is completely fixed to 21 million, right? 21 million is the absolute limit. So what does it do with society? What does it change in society? And I think what is going to happen is that making or generating credit will be much harder. You will probably more do investments based on reserves than on credit. As a company, as an individual, and a whole society in general, I think this will lead to a degrowth of the economy, and degrowth in a good way that resources will be more saved, and resource allocation, specifically in form of money, will be more. It's more costly to allocate resources then, and you cannot just generate money out of thin air by doing a credit. So I think this will have a huge impact on society. The question is, do we want this? And would it actually be a better world, or would it be a worse world? Because there's also a lot of thoughts about what would happen in a deflationary scenario. Do people stop buying, right? Is it really bad for the economy? I'm pretty sure the switch from inflationary to deflationary will be hard and will be a shock for many. But will it actually be better or worse? I'm pretty sure it will be better. But probably this is up to everyone to do his own research.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. You mentioned already a lot, and especially your kind of view on the monetary policy. Maybe we can discuss it later a little bit more. But I would like to stick to the payment function of Bitcoin as a means of payment. Because when we look into developing countries, it's not necessarily Bitcoin the people are using there, but US dollar stable coins for the everyday things they have to buy, medicine, food, and so on and so on. So when we talk about inclusion as one of the core values of Bitcoin, I mean, it's very in critical terms. Isn't financial inclusion more likely to come from a digital US dollar than Bitcoin?
Well, I guess they tried. I think the US dollar is around like for, I don't know for how long, and still billions of people are unbanked. So I think they were sort of successful in the industrialized world, but in the poorer countries, people still have no access to the banking systems. I don't recall the statistic like perfectly correct, but in United States, if you want to have a credit, this creates a lot of jobs. There's a statistic somewhere, I don't know, but it's like one of the key drivers of the American economy to get a credit and come up with an idea, build it up, and hire people. But to get credit, you must have access to the financial system. So if you're unbanked, you have no chance. So you take away this particular opportunity to all the other people. And I think this is something we really don't understand, because we were born here. We live in a safe country with a sort of safe currency. But as I said before in my statement, billions of people don't have this chance. I just was in South Africa for vacation, and I visited Bitcoin Ekazi. And if you see the people in the townships, and you don't have to talk to these people and convince them that their currency is broken. This is a discussion you don't have to have. They know that. They know that the rand is going down and they can buy less and less. So all you have to do is like to explain to them how they, have access to a payment system. In this case, it's Bitcoin, but in general, that they hold it by themselves, that they are able to pay with it like at the grocery store, and this gives them some sort of freedom.
But why not US dollar stablecoins? I mean, you don't need a bank account for that. You have also a wallet, and it's not so volatile. So if you just need food for the next 2 weeks, let's say, it's a riskier thing to use Bitcoin for everyday consumption than a US dollar stablecoin, or isn't it?
Sort of, but at the end of the day, the US dollar is very volatile versus the Bitcoin. So if you go digital, I would use the original, but that's just my humble opinion.
I think there's a big need for stablecoins, and I think there's a big need for stablecoins that are not based on the US dollar, especially because we have like the US dollar's value highly depends on the Federal Reserve, and I think in the future we will see stablecoins that are not based on the US dollar but based on, I don't know, a basket of goods or something, and so they will have a different kind of stability. And I totally agree that stablecoins are a great way for people in developing countries to save their money, to transact, because it's just hard if you are transacting in a volatile currency, and like they have volatile currencies in those countries, but also normal crypto assets are kind of volatile, then prices can change from 1 minute to the next. And if you denominate your prices in the currency, then like at some point you might overpay for goods or you underpay for goods, and you don't really know that in the moment, and it's hard to convert. So what I would hope to see is big crypto assets becoming more stable. Right now there's a lot of fluctuation going on in the markets, a lot of people buying and selling, and people have different conceptions of what the currency actually is and how it should be priced. And I hope the longer we have these assets, the more stable the price will be. But in the meantime, we need kind of these stable coins to transact.
Mm-hmm. In this discussion about the payment function, now I would like to integrate the audience and to ask you, who of you believes that Bitcoin will not only establish itself as a kind of digital gold, but also as a means of payment, as a substitute for euro, US dollar, and so on? So who thinks so in the audience? Please raise your arms. Okay. What was the question? Now, the question was if Bitcoin will establish itself not only as a digital gold, but also as a means of payment, that the people use Bitcoin for paying, like they pay things with euro, US dollar, and so on. And that was my question. So you have the chance again to raise your arms if you agree. Great.
I think it was half of a room.
Half of the room, yeah, maybe, yeah. The rest are central bankers, maybe, I don't know. Let's see. Okay, but that's good. Oh, what does the panel say? Is it like something you expect from the?
I didn't expect this, to be honest. Yeah, I'm a little surprised, because typically people don't look into Bitcoin that deeply, and if they look into it, they come up with the limitation of around like, what do we have, 7 transactions per second at maximum with the current block size. So typically people say it's never gonna work as a medium of exchange because the throughput is not here, and the other reason obviously is the volatility. I think typically these very superficial research leads to the conclusion that you say, okay, Bitcoin is very volatile, I can't use it as a payment. And the other conclusion, obviously, it's not even scalable enough to be used as payment. Obviously, the truth is a little bit more complicated. You need to look deeper. There's the Lightning Network. There are other aspects of Bitcoin you need to deeper understand in order to get to come to this conclusion. So I'm very surprised to see half of the room raising the hands. Yeah.
Okay, great. I like to ask critical questions. So we have already spoken a little bit about the autonomy and the freedom that appeals to many of us when we think about Bitcoin. But isn't this belief that Bitcoin will bring us freedom just an illusion? Because in the end, there's a state. And if the state doesn't like Bitcoin, he can declare Bitcoin as illegal, and no one, or just 99% of our society, won't risk to go to jail for using Bitcoin, for example. So is it in the end just an illusion?
Yeah, how did the prohibition work out in the United States in the 30s? Did they stop drinking alcohol? I'm just asking you that question.
It was a problem, indeed, but it was like, I think many of people in the society didn't drink alcohol. So it worked a little bit, but of course in the end, in the long run, the better system maybe, or the freedom, was successful.
I think if the state jumps in and do something like this, and I have another example, I guess many of you perhaps are not aware of the fact that gold, like private ownership of gold, was banned in the United States for decades in the 1940s, I think, to the 1970s or something. So I think this is a sign of weakness at the end of the day. And it's like a transfer of wealth, because of course, the institutions were still able to hold gold. And I think this is what's going to happen, and that's my take on what's happening right now in the United States. I think they're just trying to, enable a certain part of the cake who's able to buy Bitcoin. So you cannot ban it, because then like 180 countries around the world should have the same opinion. I think there will be at least some countries who think that's an opportunity. Those countries most likely won't be United States or Europe, but there are a lot of other countries with even more people than from the West, and they will embrace it. Be it Bitcoin, stablecoins, I mean like in general. I think banning something just is an indicator that you are on the wrong side of history.
I think we already saw that with China banning crypto assets, and a lot of the Chinese miners moved to other countries. A lot of the companies moved to other countries. Now we see China opening up, slowly opening up again to cryptocurrencies. And so, yeah, I think a ban in a country will not be the end of it. Yeah, I think there are some arguments to be had if we start banning proof of work. That it's because it's rather easy to find these providers compared to users. So, like, it's hard to find a user of Bitcoin, but it's easy to find a miner of Bitcoin. And so I think if regulation would start at this at the consensus layer, we will have a bigger problem than if regulation, the way regulation starts now, is on like the asset layer.
I would like to highlight another perspective on this. Maybe can talk a little bit from the inside here, because I'm also the co-initiator of a Bitcoin-only community, basically one of the biggest Bitcoiner communities in German-speaking area, called 21. And in 21, it's basically the melting pot where all the Bitcoiners in the German-speaking ecosystem come together, like the really hardcore Bitcoiners. And it's interesting to see how many politicians, how many central bankers, how many like people employed by the state are hardcore Bitcoiners. It's interesting. So Bitcoiners are everywhere. I think it will be hard for a state to kind of make it impossible to use crypto, or even create a law to forbid crypto. It will be really hard, because they are just Bitcoiners and crypto enthusiasts in the government itself, right? So, and they have an interest in, either they have a financial interest, or they see also what we see, a better world in a deflationary regime. So I think it will be hard for states to really
So-
crack down crypto.
okay, so
and
I
we
see-
also one example from the US, for example, we've seen like Biden made it really clear that he wants to crack down crypto, and we've seen it in Florida and we've seen it in Texas, where the governors already started a counter activity by kind of forbidding CBDCs. So I think it will be a battle here, definitely, but the battle, I don't see how the fiat government part could win this battle.
Okay, so temporary Bitcoin prohibition is possible, but not in the long term. But do you think that maybe in the future, Bitcoin will have the same status as gold, so that states no longer fight Bitcoin, and it's just like the Bundesbank have gold, the treasury, that they will add Bitcoin as well? Is it a possibility, or does it never will happen?
Well, I just quote the guy from Vanek yesterday. I don't know, no, the paper's not here. This guy. He quoted that it's going to be like 50% of the value of gold, like in a couple of, like in a few years, and he expects central banks to buy Bitcoin pretty soon. So I'm just quoting the guy.
Don't they have
concur.
already?
That I don't know. I'm just saying eventually they will buy, and I think, of course, Germany will be the last one, but others may
Maybe not.
buy first.
One of our major problems we have in our society is, of course, the climate change, and the narrative about Bitcoin is not good, as you know. So you as Bitcoiners, maybe, what can you tell the people who think that forbidding Bitcoin will help the climate? Isn't the other way around, maybe, that with Bitcoin or Bitcoin mining, we have the opportunity to make the transition to renewable energies possible, even in Germany especially?
First of all, I would like to thank Greenpeace United States for creating one of the best Bitcoin memes ever
Thank you.
created. Thank you, Greenpeace. But on a rational standpoint, of course, it's a very emotional debate. It's about the polar bears and stuff. And I love polar bears. But if you look at it rationally, and there is already proof, if you look at Texas, for example, they stabilized their electric grid. And I think many people, and I don't say this to offend anybody, but most of the people have absolutely no fucking idea how the electric grid works. They're just repeating phrases they read in Der Spiegel or some other outlets. But it's very difficult to keep the grid at this 50 hertz so that supply and demand is matched, basically. And with all the good the renewables are doing, they are making the grid more unstable, because you have the peaks, you have a lot of sunshine, but you don't have the demand at the very same moment, and then you have a problem. And this is where, for example, it's one of the examples where Bitcoin can come in, because there's no other sucker in the grid who is able to suck so much energy in a second, or just shut down if the energy is needed somewhere else. It's just one example. So it's a very rational approach. It's not emotional. And if you look at it like this, there are many examples how Bitcoin actually can help to save the polar bears.
Marius, you want to...
Like one counterpoint would be, I think, grid batteries, where we can just store the energy in peak demand, and as soon as we get...
Do we have the batteries?
No, we don't have reliable grid batteries yet, but I think that is something that's being worked on, and
But in general, that is, I'm sorry to counter this argument. What I love about this argument is always, first of all, is I don't like Bitcoin, I don't use it, so why should we, spend energy on it? So I don't have a dryer at home. So all of you who's trying the clothes with it, so you're killing my polar bears. And what is your opinion saying? Bitcoin is it's not useful use of energy. let's talk to the guy who's the surfer dude at Bitcoin Ikazi and who's being paid in Bitcoin Lightning. Is his opinion that he says, I need Bitcoin because this gives me freedom? Is his opinion lesser than ours? No, it is not. And last point, in the complete entire history of mankind, we never had the discussion that we don't have enough energy. We have enough energy. If you look at it, the graph is going like this, is a candlestick. Like the consumption of energy has always risen. It's not a problem. They make it a problem and everybody think it's a problem that Bitcoin is using energy, but it's not.
Also, batteries are not so good for the environment, as we know as well. So, I mean, there are a lot of nuances here. I think this is important to understand. You cannot just say it's bad or it's good. It's like very nuanced. But I've seen several projects in this space, and I wrote an article with Philip Sandner about the green Bitcoin theory. I really recommend to read it. It's already, I think, 2 years old or 3 years old, but definitely still, yeah, like fitting into this time. But what I've also seen is like Bitcoin mining being used for heating things in the industry processes, for example, drying food or heating water for processes in manufacturing, which is more beneficial for these companies to do with mining than with a sink heater or with any other sources. And also we've seen taxers, as Dirk already mentioned, and in Ireland there are many projects currently for farmers who have a lot of waste from the dairy cows, which generate a lot of methane, and this methane needs to be burned before it exits basically the dump of the whatever. And the problem here is they don't have a financial incentive to do this. And many farmers thought about quitting doing their job and closing down the whole farm. But now, with Bitcoin mining, they have a chance to really, yeah, convert this waste into the hardest money we've ever created in humanity. It was interesting.
Unfortunately running out of time, but nevertheless I would like to have a very, very fast final round. So I would like to ask from you, to know from you, when we meet here in the year 2030, again at the Crypto Asset Conference, and you want to buy something in the cafeteria, a snack or a drink, how will you pay? With Bitcoin, digital euro, by card, or with maybe an NFC chip in your hand? I don't know. So what it will be in the year 2030?
I think you will be able to decide. I think you will be able to decide.
You. I mean, you, Marius.
I will be able to decide what I want to pay with, and the vendor will be able to decide which currency that they accept.
Yep.
And in the process of me paying, my currency will get translated into their currency that they accept.
I don't think so. Typically, humanity coordinates around one means of payment.
I want to pay in cash because I don't want to be controlled by CBDCs.
I don't think we'll have cash in 30 years, in 10 years.
I don't know what will be the reason. I'm pretty sure we will pay via Lightning. This is definitely clear for me. I'm not sure which asset. Maybe a stable coin on Lightning, maybe even only on the edge, on the edges of the network, like we do with stable sats, converting Bitcoin into Bitcoin-backed euro-dollar, basically. But I'm pretty sure that humanity in the long run will definitely coordinate around one means of payment. I mean, we see it with the dollar. There was always like one globally available currency after the gold. So, yeah.
But humanity is not. We don't have one asset right now. We don't have one means of payment.
No, but if you want to make global business, you denominate and you pay in dollar right now. I mean, it's shifting, right? The dollar is losing. Yeah, it's losing right now. But it's typically humanity coordinates around one means of payment because it's hard intellectually and also from a cognitive energy perspective to deal with hundreds or thousands of.
Okay, I see it's a very controversial discussion. I think we have different standpoints here, but yeah. Would say thank you very much for your insights, and yeah, now I'm looking forward to the next.